All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of the Deep End, episode number 28. Hope everyone's having a great day. Ari, how are you, my friend? Good to be back in the saddle with you. What's going on in your world?
Episode 28. It is absolutely insane. Every week that we jump on here, it's just crazy to think. I mean, with every episode, that means another week went by. And I don't know about you, but I feel like time has been flying by. The year's been flying by. Like, man, we're in the second half of this year, and I don't know. I
hmm
feel like I just keep blinking, and
It's
it's
crazy,
like
man.
the next week, the
Every
next month.
week, yeah, every week is. I heard this on a recent episode, a recent podcast episode with the CEO of Clear Secure. Really good episode, by the way. But she was saying that one thing she often thinks about is every week of the year. Every week is 2% of the year. And so it's like when it comes to getting things done and people say, "Oh, let's just wait till next week or let's wait till 2 weeks from now or till next month." She takes that as like, "Wait, you want to wait, 8% of the year until we revisit this? You want to wait another 2% of the year? No, let's do this now." But anyway, all of that's to say, yeah, a week, it flies by and it's you know, they stack up. Those weeks stack up.
That's interesting to think about. 2%, and I'm right there with the CEO because it's right in line with how I think. Like, be intentional, live intentionally, know what's going on, and don't waste a single second, a single moment. But all in all, man, I've been doing great. My portfolio is booming. I just want to give a quick update there. I am just over $291,200 in the brokerage
Nice.
account. Um, a little update because I've been updating everybody on what's been going on my end with taxes. I have a phenomenal accountant. And if anybody out there wants me to connect you to my accountant, Ryan, if you want a great accountant, we were able to sit down together and really work through a lot of things. And ultimately, man, my tax bill is no longer going to be over 11K. It's come down to just under 5K. So that was like a miracle run the other day. And I
How?
am
Wait,
thrilled.
so you shaved like 10,000 off your tax bill?
No, not 10,000. Like 5,000. But still,
Oh, oh, okay, okay.
that's a significant amount. And I will now, a couple weeks ago, I was like, there's no way I'm going to hit my goal, right, of the 300,000 in the month and a half. And I think, Ryan, I have to go take a look at when I said that in the deep end last, but I think it was like 3 or 4 episodes ago. I think I'm right in line with a month and a half to hitting 300,000 or surpassing it. So that's all I have to say is let's go. I just need to pay Uncle Sam first to get that, done with, and then I'm going to transfer money into my account. The market's going to keep moving and shaking, and I'll be over $300,000 by our next chat, man. If
Dude,
if all
that's
goes as the market goes.
yeah, assuming that we don't see another day like yesterday, which I don't know about in your portfolio, but man, I got hit pretty hard yesterday. I was down maybe 1.1, 1.2%. In the grand scheme of things, it's not that big of a deal, but yeah, in terms of dollars, that was like a $1,100, $1,200 hit just in one day. And I think it was all macro related. I think it was just CPI stuff, so nothing too crazy. But assuming that we don't have another instance of that from now until next week, yeah, you'll be there for sure. You'll be there.
Did your portfolio dip back below 100,000, or have you maintained your head
No,
above water? Water.
thank goodness, man. Yeah, we were close though. I think it bottomed out at 100,400. But today is a totally different story. We're back up above 101K, so we're still hovering. We're still doing that hovering thing. Fortunately, it's on the right side of $100,000. Johnson and Johnson has been my big savior. Johnson and Johnson, of all things, has been my big savior today. They just put out some really positive earnings, raised their guidance for the rest of the year. So at least at the time that we're recording this, the stock is up over 6% for the day. And so, yeah, that one's definitely saved my butt today. Clear Secure, going back to Clear. Clear is up another like 2%, 2.2, 2.3% just today. So that one's been doing really well for me. It's back up about $30 a share. We're starting to see some pretty decent gain with that one. So yeah, man, moving and shaking, moving and shaking. Things are good.
I love it. I keep looking, at my account just to see where I'm at more recently, and because I'm like right there, like I couldn't believe it. I said about a month ago, I want the 300,000. And I was like, after all the tax stuff and the market's been, over the past couple of weeks, depending on what Trump says, with geopolitics, with our economic backdrop, we've been ebbing and flowing. And I'm like, man, I don't think am I gonna hit it? Am I not gonna hit it? I don't think I'm gonna hit it because definitely with the $10,000 tax bill, but now it's like the game is on, and I've been super excited. Not so much about the 300,000, just stick to my words, like any means possible.
Yeah. What are you more excited for? Are you more excited that you don't have to pay as much in taxes, or are you more excited about the prospect of hitting 300,000?
Oh, taxes, man.
Yeah.
when when I got the call from the head of the firm, and then the personal accountant who works with me, and they were like, Mr. Green, we have some probably devastating news for you. And I was like, oh no, like what's going on? And they were like, yeah, your taxes this year are going to come out to like about 11.5. And I was like, 11.5. Like last year it was about half that. Because again, we always sit together, and she was like, yeah, but because of X, Y, and Z, and I was like, oh my goodness, like this just, I mean, crushed my day. And okay, now my whole day, I don't want it too dramatic, but my moment at least, because I don't mind paying taxes. I understand that you need to divvy up and pay your taxes. It's just when you recognize that as a business owner, you have certain rights to write off certain things, and you just want to make sure you're doing everything you possibly can, because small business owners need that lifesaver. They need that lifesaver in the water to grab onto, and continue to help them swim and grow. So again, if anybody wants a fantastic tax advisor, you let me know in the comments. I'll send you an email, or you send me your email. I'd be more than happy to help anybody. I was just talking to her literally the other day. I was like, "You've saved my life," because she doesn't know I had this $300,000 goal, um, but it made me ecstatic. So for sure, the taxes, man.
Yeah, real quick, just as a sidebar, if you guys want to keep tabs with both Ari's portfolio and my portfolio and see how Ari is going to be deploying his tax savings into his portfolio, you guys got to check out Blossom. The Deep End is brought to you by Blossom. There's a link to check it out and download it for free in the description of the video or the show notes. Or also in the pinned comment, we'll put it there as well. But nonetheless, if you're an investor, you need to be on Blossom. There's over 300,000, I think, different investors on Blossom now, so it's the place to be. But anyway, check that out in the description of the video or in the pinned comment. I just had to throw that in there. But there was something else I was gonna ask about that. Oh, I was gonna say, yeah, a good CPA can go a long way. The first, I would say, every year up until these last couple of years, I did my own taxes, and it was easy enough just doing it through TurboTax or whatever. But even just having someone do that for me, a CPA, and the CPA that I work with works specifically with YouTubers and creators, so it's really nice. It makes such a big difference, man. It's such a huge weight off of one's shoulders, so I recommend it. Especially if you start getting into things like investing and start getting retirement accounts and maybe own MLPs. It's just nice to have someone take care of all of that stuff for you.
I'm a huge fan of being very cognizant of how I spend my time. And, for me, I was always doing my own taxes as well. And I could still do them now if I really want to. But the thing is, it's a whole day. Like, if you really want to get it right, especially, again, if you're a small business owner, a creator, whatever may have you, it's just so much easier to send it to somebody else. I'd rather actually pay the extra, couple hundred, $500, whatever it might be, to just get that done with. And enjoy, other things that I could be doing. And in that amount of time, I don't know, making money somewhere else.
Yeah, absolutely, man. That's actually, the concept of time and maximizing your time or choosing how to allocate your time brings me to a question that I wanted to ask you. I think it'd be a fun thing to think about, a fun little thought exercise. I wanted to ask you, give you a hypothetical situation. Let's say that hypothetically you are at a point in your life where your passive income, your investments can comfortably pay your bills, okay? You don't have to work, you can do whatever you want. You're at that place in life, that place that we're all trying to get to. And I'm sure you've thought about this, but what does a in that stage of life, what would a perfect day look like for you? What would a day in the life look like for financially free Ari Gutman? Walk us through a day there.
Such a great question. I think about this all the time. And to be honest with you, I'm living already a lifestyle like that because of the nature of what I do, which is amazing. So I already have, I want to say, a lick of the dream. But if I were at that specific passive income moment, or that I don't know if I want to call it like early retirement moment, a lot of the things, Ryan, I'm doing these days, I would still do. And so I'll walk you through my day today. Actually,
Okay.
the day today started at 5 a.m. And the 5 a.m. wake up alarm. Not really. I don't really have an alarm. I don't use an alarm for a totally different reason. But look at the clock. Boom, 5 a.m. I roll out of bed, put my running shoes on, and went for a nice run.
Oh, you're
And then I
you're still
stop at a
I didn't realize you were still running. That's awesome.
yeah. I'm working it back in, throughout the
Okay.
week, throughout the days. I just have to do it earlier because my dog's got to go to the dog park, and I like to train her, kind of army style. So when I don't just like go to the park and like throw a ball and like that's it. Like we do intense training together. So, but I still want to work out, and also a part of that, which I'll just throw in here, like in terms of my Instagram. I know you've seen some of the videos, but I've been working on a new project, and that new project is actually something I'm very passionate about, which is helping people with, motivation and the mindset of a successful individual, and just like, let's shed laziness, let's shed excuses, let's shed all the stuff that's just not going to work here in this thing called life, and let's do that together. And so I've just been creating actually new content on Instagram, some of which, is the runs, the workouts, or even just working, YouTube or my work, whatever it is. That's a side note. So I went for the run, and then I stopped while on the run at an outdoor gym, got a little pump in there, and then I ran home. I was back by about 6:30. And then I took my dog to the dog park for a good hour 15, 20 minutes training with her. Some mornings, my neighbor's son, who is a little bit challenged, I take him with me, and he loves dogs, and so I've been helping him, really with socializing, and that's been very special.
Nice.
And then I come back, man, and if it wasn't, the final studies for the Series 7, it would just be reading, man. I'd spend a good hour or two diving deep into some text that I enjoy, whether that's on the business front, psychology front, spiritual front, any of that type of literature. I went to speak thereafter at a local recovery center, and that was amazing. I came back. I got some more studying in there, so take out the Series 7 again and put some more reading in.
You're gonna get hours
Uh,
back.
oh man, I'm gonna be so free. I'm going on a month-long vacation when this deal is done. But yeah, and then I ended up well, I went. I had lunch, and then after lunch, I went out again to a different center where they had a class um, that I typically teach, and so I taught there about 40, 60 students that come to learn about like how to authentically connect. I'll just say here in the world, and so I taught that, and then here I am, man. Doing some work, and then on with you. And after this, I got that ice cream back there, and I take some ice cream out on my terrace. I sit down. I live on a busy street. I like to just enjoy my ice cream and people watch for a little bit, and then I close out my day with some heavy meditation and just peace of mind, man. You know.
I thought you were going to say heavy metal there
No,
for a moment.
yeah. After that, it's like, my days are super peaceful, and I love it. I love it. I know that a lot of people think I'm like very intense throughout my whole day. I think I'm very efficient. I'm very much at peace with my schedule. I love what I do. I'm doing a lot, um, throughout my days in terms of like helping other people. And that's just what I enjoy doing more than anything. It's the biggest paycheck in the world. I just do that, man. That would be like, that's my everyday. And eventually I'm going to move again closer to the beach, which we spoke about. So the only difference there would be I'll go drink a coffee on the beach. And then instead of sitting on the terrace over a busy street, I'll sit on my terrace and overlook the ocean and watch the sunset. That's it. That's the
But
deal.
but do you think like when you get to that point, um, do you think you'll still be working on the same things that you're working on today? Are there, or do you think that you'll maybe fill the time? Because obviously you've got like basically a full time job, probably more than a full time job. Do you think you'll always have something like that, some sort of corporate gig like that? If you don't have that, if you didn't have that, how do you think you would fill that time? Are there any other projects? I mean, obviously having a YouTube channel and whatnot is another job all on its own. But even outside of that, are there any other projects that you think you'd take on? Any other things that you haven't had the chance to do that you'd want to maybe
Man, I,
try?
I
And also, I want to throw this to everyone in the comments too. Like, let's hear about your perfect day. Let's hear about. I want you guys to answer this question too. I'd be very curious about that. But anyway, sorry.
I will always be working. I love working. I absolutely love working. I don't know. This is what life is about. It's about working. It's about using your mind. It's about helping, the
Mm.
world advance and your society grow. And that's just like, I don't, the day you stop learning and the day you stop working is actually the day you die for me. Like
Yeah.
retirement for me is not about sitting on the beach with a coconut and like that's it. That's it. That's the retirement pasture. Retirement for me, and I'll actually, my grandmother had passed away the other week, and I went to, I was at the funeral and I spoke at her funeral, and it was a beautiful funeral, man. But my uncle, who used to work at Fidelity, um, obviously he was there, and um, some of his buddies from college were there. Now he went to Wharton, and his roommate was there. They're very good friends, and his roommate is actually friends with Mark Lazary. I don't know if you know who that is. Hedge fund
Mm-mm.
manager of distressed debts. He's like the best when it comes to distressed debt investing. Like Mark Lazary is your guy. Um, so Mark wasn't there, but my uncle's roommate was there, and they're good friends. And this guy also good friends with like Jay Powell. So amazing guy to talk to. And I was talking to him. Funny who you meet at a grandmother's funeral, huh?
Yeah.
So he's this guy is just over 70, and he was like, yeah, I'm involved in this. I can't speak too much to what he shared, but he was like, I'm involved in this new project, and it's going to require me to travel a lot. I'm super excited about it. And I was like, man, how's your wife feel about that? Like, you guys are kind of retired. And he's like, nah, me, I love working. And I was like, I can so relate to that. And so what he's doing is he's helping, companies on different boards. And I love that, man. That I feel like that's easily going to be me. Always consulting, always working with people, definitely always teaching, and always giving back, coaching for sure. I don't ever see myself just like buying a world ticket to travel the world and forget everybody else. I did my deal. I'm always going to be in the deal and doing the deal. And it's
Yeah.
the requirement for me is being able to choose what that deal or
Hmm.
picture looks like. What about
Absolutely.
you,
It's
Matt?
all, and that's kind of why I phrased it that way. It's like if you had full optionality with your time, what would you do? And that's, I mean, when you get to the root of it, that's why we're investing in the first place, is just to get that optionality. And I'll get to myself in a minute, but I think as time goes on, I think a lot more people are thinking about retirement in the same way as you. And let me know what you think about this too. I I get the sense that a lot of people, that most people don't want to just like sit around and kind of wait to expire. It seems like a lot of people are excited to just get back their time and really sink their teeth into something. And it seems like the definition of retirement is shifting more towards something like that. At least amongst people that I talk to, or people around our age, or a little older, a little younger, whatever, who are already planning this stuff and thinking ahead about this stuff. Have you noticed that too?
It's. I think a lot of people never actually take the time to think about this question, and I think it's so easy for people to be like, "Yeah, I want to retire early and just go sit on the beach." But how long can you realistically go sit on the beach before you're like bored out of your wits' end? And that's like that. What a waste of life. Like, I don't want to get crazy like religious or whatever, but like I just don't think God was like, yeah, the world and the people and like here everything is now here and we're just supposed to chill out.
Hmm.
Right? I don't think that's the storyline. I think the storyline is like we're supposed to grow and challenge ourselves and be involved. There's a book I read called, I might have the pronunciation wrong. It's a Japanese written book called Ikigai, and it's
I've heard
about
of
this.
this.
You have? It's about this
Yeah.
island off the coast of Japan that they have the most amount of individuals over 100 years old on the island. And the big question is like, well, what's the deal here? And
Yeah.
their secret sauce? Work.
Mm.
They're working at like 80 years old, at like 90 years old. These people are like, yeah, just keep working.
Have
Enjoy
you
what you
uh
do, but keep working.
have you seen the Blue Zones documentary?
No.
It's pretty similar. So basically, there's other places around the world just like this place in Japan, where there is for some reason or another, a high concentration of individuals who are living well beyond like the average lifespan of a human being, like above average. Are they called octogenarians, or I don't know what the word is, but maybe that's not the right word. Maybe that's
Sounds like a
octogenarian
dinosaur.
is 80. Maybe that's 80 years. But anyway, it's basically this documentary about all these different places where there are people just living very, very long, and not just living long, but like staying healthy through most of that time. And there's actually a place in California that is one of these blue zones. California, Japan, there's Italy, there's a place. I think Greece, there's a place. So there's a handful of them, but it goes through all of them. It's like a, I don't know, multi-part documentary. Really interesting. But that's one of the common factors among all these different places, is that people stayed busy, they stayed active, not just physically but also mentally, and socially was a big one. Places where there was a strong sense of community, that really made a big impact on the longevity of that group of people. And to your point, it's like if you don't, and this is a big concept in like working out and fitness too. It's if you don't use it, you lose it. If you don't use your body, it starts to, especially as you get older, it starts to dwindle. If you don't use your mind, you start to be forgetful. You start to get, I don't know, like I'm sure there's other factors for sure, but you're more susceptible to things like dementia and Alzheimer's and stuff like that. And so yeah, it's just good practice to have these, and we've talked about this so many times, but it's good to have those different projects or those things that you can kind of tinker on, or these things that you can pour yourself into.
Oh, for sure. Look, I had a really good conversation. You may have seen it with someone actually from Blossom, two people off of Blossom now. Well, three, including Adriano. But all three of these investors were passive income investors who are heavily invested into the covered call funds. And, call the strategy what you will, but it works for them. And some of these folks are seeing $40,000 a month in passive income. The last guy that I had on, he was seeing just over $9,000.
This was Paul, right?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, Paul.
nine to
I think
ten
Paul.
thousand dollars.
I think Paul watches the deep end. So shout out to Paul.
Yeah, shout out to Paul here. But I look, that's amazing. But something
Hmm.
interesting that at least Paul shared is this: if you're younger, that's not your strategy. And your strategy, according to him and according to me, because I think this way too, if you're younger, you should be more growth oriented and less inclined to invest merely for the passive income. And so that's just, again, something to think about. And it really all breaks down to this: the faster you get to $1 million, and run the numbers, right? 10% of 10% of a million. The faster you can get to 2 million, 10% of 2 million. Because the reason I'm using 10% is because the market goes up by 10% on average per year. So now you could have a freak year like we did the last couple of years where we're seeing like up over 22%. Those are crazy, amazing years. And so just think about the numbers. If you're able to hit the 1 million faster, it's all you're able to do is then generate more income by the time you actually realign your strategy. And I'm using that word intentionally, realign the strategy based on your investor profile. But I'll tell you what, Ryan, my eyes open up to these. When I talk to other investors, there's nothing more that I hate when I read comments sometimes and they're like, tuned off in the first minute because XYZ. And I'm like, man, if only you stayed on to watch the how, why, and what, because there's always something to learn. And the more I'm listening to every single investor who's on, the more I'm growing and very rapidly as an investor and recalibrating. And it's just a fascinating journey.
I would say that is. I'd say you're better about that than I am, because as soon as I hear something like, and I know, guys, I know there's more covered call funds out there besides Yield Max, but as soon as I see something like, as soon as I see MSTY or ULTY, it does. I do tend to get close minded about it. I do have my mind made up about the Yield Max fund specifically. And once again, I know there's tons of other ones out there. I think in a previous comment, Paul mentioned T Spy, JEPQ, JEPI. There's some good ones out there, but there are certain ones where I know I can be pretty close minded about. But that's at least.
But to be fair, all of those guys also highlight that the yield maxes of the world aren't hot funds to invest in. But there's a stigma around, like even Adriano, kind of like the goat of this whole. I know he's not like the first one to pioneer it, but he was really, this guy Adriano was the first
Yeah.
one to really pioneer it on YouTube and broadcast it. And so a lot of people love to go to Adriano's channel and check out what he's doing. But all I'm getting at here is just saying that all of these guys actually, they're not, in favor of the yield maxes of the world. And they would be the first ones to agree with you. So I just think there's a stigma, just like you said, like the moment you hear covered call funds, your mind is going to yield max. But there's so many other funds and investment companies out there that you can find and enjoy.
Yeah. Well, I try not to. I try not to just blanket shut down covered call ETFs because, like I said, I do think that there's some good ones out there. And at some point in the future, I used to have JEPI. At some point in the future, I may jump back into something like a JEPI or a JEPQ, or I may look more into those in the future than be more interested in them in the future than I am today. Um, but yeah, there are certain bad eggs out there that I think are deserving of the stigma, and that probably the stigma probably stems from them, and then that gets applied to all the other funds out there. But it's kind of the same thing with certain dividend stocks as well. It's not just specific to covered call ETFs. Like personally speaking, a certain I've got my mind made up about certain stocks like AGNC or Orchid Island Capital. I see people invest in those a lot, and when asked why my thoughts about them, I'm like, well, the dividend per share is going down over time. So yeah, I don't think that they're good investments. And even with that said, some people still disagree and think there's a place for them. But that's where I have my mind made up. I don't think there's a place for them. But that's just like for my personal strategy. There's not a place for them. And to be fair, like someone else's situation, they may see it differently, and they may want certain things out of their investments, and that's fine. And I think I not just myself, I'm talking to myself, but also all of us, we should probably always keep that in mind, especially here on the deep end, because we do talk a lot about these different strategies and about the high yield funds too. So I think that should always be kept in the back of our minds.
I think it's important to note, the investors who are really seeing the success that, they need from this investment strategy of the covered call ETFs, they're older, and they actually really do need income, which is, I think, the most important thing to note. Like Paul would be the first one to say, and he mentioned it 2 or 3 times, if you are a younger investor, this is probably not your go-to strategy, and you should not be looking to it. But if you want to maybe do, like, I don't know, 5 to 10% of your portfolio in it just to see the income coming in, then so be it. But look, I think that's where, like, I'm so selective with who I bring on to Masters of the Market. I don't want anyone coming on with like the pump and dump attitude. I want people who are like Paul, people who are like Adriano, and like they're coming at it because they have an experience with it. They have a humbled approach. They're sharing their journey just like me and you are, and their journey just so happens to be that for the most part they got invested a little late. Whether it was Paul or even the interview before Paul. Both of these
Perry,
guys
I
got
think.
invested. Perry, yeah. Both of these guys got invested a little bit later in the game, and they were caught off guard by the fact that they didn't think that their retirement was that nest egg of retirement was actually going to be sufficient. So they re-strategized and fell into the covered call ETFs, and they're older investors. That's important, I think, to highlight. As exciting as it can be to bring in $10,000 in quote-unquote passive income a month, what's more exciting still for me, because somebody actually asked me this in a comment, they were like, now that Paul gave a thorough explanation, Ari, are you going to finally invest in these funds? And no, my answer is no, because I have my strategy. I'm 30 years old. I know my investor profile. What will be really fun, and Paul even agreed with me, is hitting $1 million first, and then over time switching the strategy. And again, like I said before, you start doing the math now. If I had $1 million portfolio and switched into a strategy like that, we're just talking about printing money at this point.
Yeah, it is crazy to think, man, when your portfolio gets to a certain size, it is very much like printing money. If you can just get the average market returns, that 8 to 10%, man, even at $1 million portfolio, 8%, $80,000, and we're just I mean, we can talk total return, combination of capital appreciation and dividends. However, which way you slice it, man, $80,000 not having to lift a finger.
Some
it
people aren't
just
even making that salary.
yeah, and it's crazy to think that it's not even an if, it's a when. If you just keep doing what you're doing and just stay consistent, it's crazy to think that at some point this will grow to a level where the money coming in is much larger than how much larger than you can spend it. You'll have more money than you know what to do with. It's and then it's not just about like, I mean, I guess it is about money, but like it's the how do I say this? The stress-free aspect that comes with having more money than you know what to spend is probably the coolest thing about it. Really bad way to
I
phrase that, but you
I
know what I
gotta be
mean.
real. I mean, Ryan, I'm seeing a lot of money come in these days, and very grateful. I have a crazy. It's not. I don't. Crazy is not the right word. I have a vision for myself, um, and I think I might have shared this with you before. But the reason why I'm working so hard for the money that I want to have in the bank account is not. It's like, yeah, family. That's first and foremost. But my vision for like what I really want to ultimately do in life is build a facility where I can help kids who are in my shoes who didn't really have a strong guide in their life. I want to build a facility or a center for them where they can come and they can just relax. They can get out of their space, that negative space, wherever they might have been or they are. They know they can go to this center, and they're going to get a couple of things out of this place. They're going to fine tune their emotions. You can fine tune your emotions there, right? You can talk to mentors in business, and it's like, let's just turn boys to men, right, or girls to women. I want to build a facility like that. So that's what I'm really like. Yeah, I the $1 million race and all this stuff. I'm working hard for it all. I want it to give my kids and my future family what I never had. But even more than that, I want to build this facility. And that just drives me every single day.
Would it be? That sounds like something that maybe would be set up as like a nonprofit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I already have once a week. I got a group of guys, some teens, troubled.
Hmm.
We meet here. We meet right here, either here or on the roof of the building because I'm on the top floor. And we get together every week, and we talk about the depths of life, right? And what's shared there is kept there. But it's amazing, man. It's amazing. And that makes me feel so rich. And so with all the money that's coming in now, I'm very, very grateful. And I'm just, like I said, I'm playing these cards right. We really only get one fair shake and shot at this whole thing. And I don't have time, man. I don't have the time to waste anymore.
Yeah. Well, that definitely sounds like a good cause, man.
Yeah, dude, it's I just keep gunning for it. I keep working for it. And every paycheck, it just makes me excited because I'm like, the money doesn't make me excited. It's the dream that this money is going to help me build, So
Mm.
I think that's just, it always goes back to even like your why. And we speak about this all the time, but your why is so important because it just keeps you motivated, and knowing the impact I want to make. I got all the motivation in the world, man. I'm already a billionaire because of the kind of how I feel in the heart.
Yeah. I was gonna say that a few minutes ago. Man, you're already a billionaire.
It's everybody jokes, I use that so often, but it's so true, man. I feel like a billionaire. I feel like a
Yeah.
billionaire.
Well, good, man. There's definitely worse things that you could feel like. So, of all things, that
A millionaire.
I'm glad that's you. Yeah. That's awesome, man.
But what about you, man? Like, what's your ideal day look like in the passive income world of Ryan Williams?
It's a it's a tou- it's a great question.
I feel
Kind
like
of
you're
like
going
you
to
were
say like
saying,
a margarita and the beach.
I think there's probably a margarita involved somewhere. Yeah. Later in the day as opposed to earlier in the day, but yeah,
It's
I don't
5 o'clock
you know,
somewhere.
yeah, kind of like you were saying, man. I feel like thankfully, like I feel so fortunate that I do get to experience it in a sense. But if I had to lay out my absolute perfect day, no stress, don't have to worry about anything, money's taken care of, whatever. I can just, full optionality, full financial freedom. I'd wake up, kind of like you, I'm an early bird. I got up a bit later than you this morning. I was up around 6:15, but usually I'm closer to 5 or 5:30 on a normal day. My favorite thing to do is just wake up, pour a cup of coffee, fresh cup of coffee. Not Folgers either. We're rocking some Starbucks dark roast. If the best part of
Starbucks.
my day is waking up with Folgers in my cup, I'm not so sure I want to wake up. So, pour a cup of coffee, sit down and read for, I don't know, maybe even an hour. Spend the first hour of the day just reading, just enjoying that cup of coffee. It's my favorite way to start the day. And then after that, go on a run, whatever that run calls for on that day. Once I get back from that, have a little breakfast, refuel a bit, and typically too, this on a normal good day, this is like what I'm doing already. After breakfast, now like I'll get to work. Today I just got up and got right to work, but on a normal day, do those things, have breakfast, get cleaned up, get to work for a bit, have some lunch, go to the gym, go lift. I like to get my lifts done in the afternoon or later in the day. I just feel after a couple meals in me, after just kind of getting stuff done, I feel like I always have a better workout. I'm not as rushed through it. I've got more calories in me that I can put to work. I'm a bit more warmed up just from being awake for more hours in the day. And so, midday, love to go just get a lift in, get a workout in, another workout, come back, maybe bust out some more work, have some dinner with a margarita, and just kind of wind down from there. Maybe read again, before going to bed. And that would be like, I don't know, maybe that's lame, but like that would be the perfect day. It's all centered around working out, working. And when I say working, it's basically tinkering on whatever project that I'm doing at the time. And I'd be very surprised, like if it still wasn't something like what I'm doing now. I think I'm always going to be doing this in some capacity. I love doing this and whatever. It's just like working out this is a part of me. This is a part of what I do. And I just don't, this is like an extension of me, and I just don't see myself stopping that. And so, yeah, man, I think the day would just be based around reading, working out, hanging out with my lady, and tinkering on whatever project I'm doing. To me, that's like the perfect day. I would like, maybe once or twice a year, I'd love a week at the beach. I'd love a week at Newport Beach. I would not mind a Cabo trip once a year or so, something like that. But, that's about it for me. If I can have all those things, then I don't know what more I could ask for.
Not too much
Yeah.
to ask. A Cabo trip once or twice a year.
Not too much, yeah.
It's
So that's it,
interesting
man.
to me that your day is, for the most part, I mean, it's similar to mine. And no matter whether you are working or not working, you're waking up early. And whether you're working or not working, your day entails reading and working out and progressing, which makes me think, about how, like, we talk about this a lot. So I'm reluctant to even go down this route, but how
Yeah,
important it is.
we're like broken records with some of this stuff, but it's okay. This is important stuff.
But on a week-to-week basis, some people just in one ear and out the other. And so, but this is so important. I think, Ryan, what me and you have that's key is consistency. And we're so consistent. I mean, think about it. Episode here, 28, we haven't missed a week. We're just here, every Thursday. We're doing the video, no matter what.
Yeah.
And no matter what, we're waking up between the window of 5 to 6:30 a.m. That's not because, we're getting up to go to full-time jobs, 9 to 5s. We have freedom there. But yet we choose to wake up early and then work out or read and do these things. So I want to make a pretty bold statement. This might get me some haters. If you're not consistent and you're not living in this capacity, always looking to progress and improve and grow, I think your priorities are mixed up.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it's I think you need to have things like this that you can work toward. You need to have these projects or these things that you can tinker on and take steps forward with. And I think there's a sense of fulfillment and a sense of purpose and a lot of reward that comes from doing that. And that creates an increased sense of self-efficacy, self-confidence. There's all sorts of good stuff that comes from making progress towards something, and it doesn't even matter what it is. And I like to think that, I don't like to think, I know this to be true. Everyone watching this right now, everyone who has a portfolio, you already have something like that in your life. If you are actively contributing to your portfolio and building that, working on building that, you already have something like that. With that said, though, is that enough? Or do people need to stack these? Because we've referred to them as infinite games. These things that you can make progress at that don't have a defined finish line. You can just continue moving forward in perpetuity. Is one enough? Can it just be your portfolio? Do you need more? Where do you settle with that?
I'm excited because the little Instagram video I made for tomorrow is epic. Number one, if I don't say so myself. But it's all about this very topic. And I'm not going to ruin what I said in the it's one of those reels that like flashes the words and like there's a video for each word. So I'm not going to ruin what I shared in the video, but I do want to say that you just keep going. You just keep going. But you don't play the game of more for the sake of having more. You play the game of more in knowing that there's a greater purpose. And what do I mean by that? Let's say you're gunning right now for 10,000. And then we all know after 10,000, your goal probably goes up to like 20,000 or 50,000. And then you get there and it's 100,000. The people in this world, in life, who are most miserable just keep changing the numbers and they never actually have a moment to think about their vision. And it's the vision that matters the most because you should always be making more money and enjoying more money and building, because with more money comes the ability to afford your vision and then do something even cooler. Help others achieve their vision. I don't know a better way to live. I literally don't know a better way to live. I walk around literally with cash in my wallet. I don't use cash ever. But there's always kids on the street who, it's like the Boy Scouts or the Girl Scouts or whatever, whatever, and they're busy building something. And so a part of what makes me a billionaire is the ability to give. And so I always walk around with cash just in case I get asked, even if it's someone, who doesn't have a home, they're living on the street, they might need it. So I give it because I have it and I have that to give. That's being a player in life, the game of life. If you don't have money to give and you can't help other people, what are you doing? That's kind of how I think about it. So I say keep going for more. Keep going for more, not for the sake of you, but for those who are around you.
Yeah, I think once you start doing it with one thing, if the only infinite game you're playing right now is the game of building your financial future, I think it's easy enough to start stacking things on top of that. It's easy to take that same idea of starting from zero, but moving forward one step at a time. I think it's easy enough to take that same concept, which you're already doing here, and apply it to literally anything you want over here, whether it's getting in shape, training for a half marathon, or even just a 5K. Starting a YouTube channel or a Twitter or newsletter or whatever it is. It can be maybe learning how to, I just keep coming up with ideas, maybe learning how to brew your own beer or something like that at home.
That's clearly something on your to-do list.
You know what, man? I would love...
The way you passionately said that made it very clear.
I'd love to learn how to make stouts at home. I would absolutely love that. Maybe down the road. Maybe that will be part of my perfect day when I reach financial freedom. But right now, I just... You can have... it's possible to not be playing enough infinite games, but it's also possible to be playing too many. And I don't think I can stack anymore at this point. I'm playing quite a handful right now, and I want to just focus on those. But someday, man. But the point is, you can take that same way of thinking, that same mental model that you apply to your portfolio, and apply it anywhere else. And I think, yeah, I think people should. I think you should work to have as many productive things in your life as you can. Now, I'm also not the type of person to say that you can't have any leisure or you can't have any downtime, because I think that that's like an important part of living a well balanced life. But yeah, it's undeniable that you can also spend too much time watching Netflix or too much time playing video games, which, you could make the argument that, well, that's something that you can make progress at. Yeah, but it's not. We're talking like real life stuff, unless you're streaming and working on building like a video game streaming channel or whatever. It doesn't count. So I think you should work to add as many positive habits and as many positive things into your routine as you can.
I also think what's interesting is when you change or when you're on the journey to get to the goal, you ultimately become a different person because you're growing and evolving. And so, I'm even feeling the effects of all these financial exams that I've been, under the stress of taking in a very short amount of time, literally under, some of these exams that I had to take. Most people take about 5 to 6 months to study for them. I did it in 2, and I'm like, I call it the crucible of life. You're either entering into adversity in the midst of adversity or coming out of adversity. Where are you in that little trifecta? And the crucible of life for me is when you're in the midst of adversity, and that's where all the growing is done. And I feel that I'm near the end of the tunnel for all the tests, and I can tell you straight up, Ryan, I have changed immensely. My
What do
level
you?
of
Oh, go ahead.
focus has skyrocketed. And it's an insane. I thought I was pretty focused and sharp before I started taking all these exams. I'll tell you right now, I didn't even know what focus was.
Are you talking just in terms of maybe having a longer attention span, or?
Longer attention span, the ability to sit, the duration and stress, just heavy stress of needing to execute on something in a certain amount of time with the pressures, different pressure, and you're forged in it. But I can tell you right now, like, I feel like a different man. It's crazy. I feel like a different person. And so, today I threw out there the fact that, while on the journey, while the goal is great, it's often the person that you become along the journey that's even better. And for me, that's just been the case. And that's why the money doesn't matter. Like, I'm on the journey to $1 million, but it's actually who I'm becoming on this journey that's epic.
Yeah. Yeah, as the saying goes, it's not the destination, it is the journey, the things that happen along the way. But
Yeah.
the crazy thing is, you don't realize that until you are thrown in the crucible, until you have those instances of having these tribulations and being forced to overcome them, and the good feeling that comes from that, and the growth that comes from that. You don't realize that that's what it's all about until you actually start going through it. When you start, I don't know, when you start building a portfolio, for example, you just have your sights set. Like, I'm doing it, I just need to get $1 million. That's why I'm doing it. But then along the way, you learn about how to read financial statements, or you spend time reading some great investing books, and you become smarter and more wise and more patient and more endured. You become all these good things along the way, and then as you start picking up those things, that's when you realize, oh, this is what it's really all about. Yeah, the $1 million will be cool, but it doesn't hold a candle to these other invaluable qualities that I've picked up along the way.
It's who you become. It's who you become. And it's usually the people, at least from my experience, that they are inconsistent. They kvetch about not being able to sit in the beach all day. It's those people who don't grow and don't evolve. But the people who remain consistent, like even when it looks like you're doing nothing, but you're just every single day you're putting in, I don't know, $10 into the stock market. Eventually you will look back and along that journey, because in that consistency of just $10 a day, it sounds like a commercial, for just $10 a day, you can help your future self. Um, I think what's important to recognize, again, it goes back to that vision, like have your vision, know your vision well, inside and out, um, and just keep moving forward. And you change and evolve along the way. And then other people enter your sphere and you're able to share those experiences with them. And you can grow exponentially faster if you decide to put yourself in the crucible of life. I think it's better to put yourself in a crucible of life than letting life put you in the crucible.
Mm.
So I like to wake up at 5 a.m. because I know no one's freaking up. Like people are up, but very few. And you know
Yeah.
what? I had a sadistic thought. This is so sadistic. Yesterday, I was in bed because I knew I was going to wake up at 5 and go for my run. I was like, next week you should just try to wake up at 4. Just for the sake of training myself, my mind.
Yeah. Dude, I've done that same exact thing. For me though, it's you start playing with the numbers. Okay, and you start crunching it and say, if 5 a.m.'s great, I'm used to that now, it doesn't seem as bad. Maybe we can push it to 4, okay? An extra hour. It'd be nice to have that sleep, but man, an extra hour every single day, that's 7 hours per week. That's a whole entire work day that I'm getting back just from waking up an hour early. And 4 a.m., that can't be much more difficult than 5, right? Let's do it. And then you take it a step further. Man, 7 hours a week, 52 weeks in a year. Dude, I'm getting I don't know what the exact math is, but I'm getting a whole month back. It's not a month. It's maybe like a couple
Dude, you're
weeks
getting
back,
a year.
but still. Is that what it is?
You're
No,
getting a whole year back.
No. What's 7
No,
times 52? It's 350.
364.
Okay. 364. So you're getting maybe a week and a half?
Yeah, roughly. Right,
That's still a
364.
long time. Think of
Yeah, man.
think about this. If you took a vacation for a week and a half, no responsibilities, no nothing, you were just free to fill that time with whatever. Think about how many books you could read in a week and a half.
Well, for me, man, I like to read, there was Ty Lopez that was popular way back when. You know who that is, Ty Lopez? The big guy, the guy who
Oh yeah.
read a book a day and all that. And I was for a long time gunning for a book a day. And I did the book a week, and I mentioned this before, it was so transformative. But even just to hit I don't know, 5 books a month, 6 books a month. The amount of knowledge and insight and wisdom coming in is it's unbelievable. And that was I know what it feels like to read a book a week. And at the end of that year, how it transformed my life. And that's all I can say is you just got to be ready to level up in all capacities, because when you really start to level up, you're going to realize that your old world, so to speak, doesn't necessarily fit or suit you anymore, which is okay. It means you've grown.
Maybe this kind of ties back to a previous conversation we had. Maybe that's the problem though. Maybe I think you would say one of the reasons people don't put themselves in the crucible is because of the fear that comes with having to grow
Who they're going
beyond
to
your
become.
current situation. Yeah.
Yeah. I actually spoke about that a little bit tonight. People are frightened with who they're going to become or who they could become or what they're going to have to let go of or what life is going to look like. And it's all stupid, because at the end of the day, you don't know, even when you think you know what life is going to look like, because you think you've planned everything out, so perfectly. But we get the good old saying that, man plans and God laughs. And that's just how the cookie crumbles.
Yeah. I can honestly say I don't think I've ever thought about the consequence of that in the things that I've taken on. Have not been like, I don't know, super crazy things. I'm just thinking about the decision to start working out, the decision to like start investing, the decision to start a YouTube channel. I don't think at any point in time I gave much thought to like what I'd have to give up to start those, because I don't know, I guess I never really felt like I had to give anything up to start those. And I don't know, Matt, maybe thinking about it now in hindsight, maybe you do. Like when you start working out or make the decision to get in shape, yeah, you have to give up the time to do that. You have to give up, eating Chipotle every single day or In-N-Out Burger or whatever. But upon doing so, it doesn't seem like a huge ordeal, or you just find alternatives. You make burritos at home or make burgers at home, and it's sometimes it's even better, to be honest with you. Same thing with like like investing. I'm sure one of the things is, oh well, I just, people would rather spend their money elsewhere. I don't remember ever thinking about that, just because I've never personally been a huge spender on things. So it was like never something I was worried about giving up. And so far that's been true. And it's actually like the more that I put in my portfolio, the less I actually want to spend, because the benefits, that not just the financial, but everything that comes from being able to build that up is so much better than what you might be giving up to get there.
Yeah.
Interesting. I'm just thinking out
Look,
loud.
it's very powerful, and I think mindset is everything. It's the money mindset in this case, or just the life mindset. This is how you get ahead in life. This is how you get ahead in investing. Being the consistent investor, being the, I think, strategic long-term thinker. Was there's the quote that the best math one is ever able to do is the math. I'm going to butcher this now. It's the math that you can calculate like the future returns of your decisions, your present decisions. So how do you want to plug the formula? Do you want to plug it with going out to the bar every night? Do you want to plug it with, being lazy and watching TV all day and just not doing anything? Or do you want to plug it with putting in the work in all aspects of life, eating healthy, working out, investing, reading, new skills? Like that list goes on and on. And you ultimately just get to a place where I think what typically happens to people is they're so far gone after a while that they just start to accept defeat.
Do you
And
think people
defeat
just
is,
get? Go ahead.
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry.
No, defeat is literally just you giving up. Like, yes, I've been like this for as long as I can remember. It's probably not going to change, and I don't even really believe it can change. But that's where I
Hmm.
come in and say you never even really tried.
I wonder where, because I think you're right, but I just wonder where does that thought come from? The thought that the situation I'm in now is the one that I'm stuck with forever. Where does that come from?
I think there's a bit of an environmental factor, and I think there's an environmental factor because we're all familiar with like the 90%, the 10%, keep dwindling that number down to get to your 1%. And I love Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk and Bill Gates and these successful high-level thinkers. There's a difference between them and us, and they deserve to be where they're at. They think differently, they act differently. Like I just, and therefore if we start to carbon copy them, we'll get similar results. There's always a little bit of luck there and who you know and when you meet them and how the story unfolds. So I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, you start waking up at 5 a.m., you're going to start working on Wall Street or something. Like, no, you got to put your work in. But the success formula is not esoteric. Put in the work, life tends to always unfold and magic happens when you put the work in. And so I think because there's the 99%, and I don't want to be the one to burst everybody's bubble, but like, check your circles. I mean, really, I'm so big on being so careful on who I let in to my inner circle. It's the one thing I protect more than anything, more than my money. Because you let someone negative in your circle, you've just inputted a poison.
Yeah,
And it might not deteriorate you that Monday or Tuesday, but give it a couple months, give it a year. You know, you ever stick around someone who, I don't want to throw her under the bus, but I'm going to throw her under the bus. My ex, you know, when I was living in Manhattan, I had my ex, Chris, and she was like a sweetheart, man. She never cursed. It was cute. She would say like frick instead of the F word. And I love that. I don't like to curse. And it's not that I haven't ever cursed, right? It's just like I refined my life 8 years ago, and that all
it's
fell
just not
wayside
part of your normal vernacular
anymore. Yeah.
yeah
And then, you know, my last girlfriend, she wasn't as clean as like Chris. So
she was a
was
sailor.
dropping the F-bomb sometimes, you know?
She had a scurvy tongue.
Yeah, here and there, man. And what happened? Inevitably, as much as I tried, sometimes the F word would slip right out of my mouth, like in a joke or like, and I was like, where did that come from? Like, that's not me. And now I broke up with her. You know, it's been 8, 9, 10 months almost. I don't curse.
Mm-hmm.
So what poison is in your circle? If you want to be the guy waking up at 5 a.m., if you want to be the business owner, if you want to be the millionaire, what poison is in your circle?
I'd like to think that as you get older and take on more responsibilities in life, you have less of a tolerance for that type of stuff. And you can feel it. Like you can feel when something or someone's not really sitting right with you, or you can feel if you're just too different from someone. And not that being different's bad, but you know what I'm trying to say. If you just don't click, you know, you can feel that. And I like to think as you get older and you have more things going on in life, just more responsibilities, more on your plate, I like to think that you have less of a tolerance, more of an awareness, actually less of a tolerance, and as a result of that, more of an awareness for stuff like that. I can tell you, like, that's at least been the case for me as I have gotten older and continuing to get older. Yeah, you definitely pay more attention, and soon now, like gonna have a family, gonna have a daughter. That's stuff that you think about more and pay more attention to than maybe you did when you were in your early 20s. You know what I'm saying? Because you could be a bit more casual, a bit more freewheeling, and it wasn't, you know, the stakes weren't as high, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But I do think that changes as you get older, as it should.
Well, I think something important you said just now is you can, you know, be a little looser. Doesn't mean you should.
That's true. That's true.
And so I think we give ourselves an out a lot of the times. I was speaking to this 18-year-old kid earlier today, after this class, and he was asking me a bunch of questions, and I said, man, if you could just get what I have, even remotely a little bit of what I have right now at 18, you're going to soar right past me. And like, you just got to realize you can watch Netflix every day. You can play whatever video game every day. You can eat out every day. You can do whatever you want. It doesn't mean you should. And that's what I think we have to be hard-lined on. And that's where the discipline comes in, and then the consistency in this formula that's not esoteric comes in, and that's just what the 1% club is always willing to sacrifice on. They're always sacrificing, in the beginning at least, for sure.
Yeah. Part of it too is they just enjoy it, kind of like us. They just enjoy the process of making progress. You know, like a lot of the things that we're doing, it's like you do it. Once again, you do it not for the end destination. even though like that's awesome too, you make progress at whatever you're doing just for the sake of making progress, because that progress feels good and it has compounding effects that trickle into other areas of your life, and that's why you do it. And I think that's why also it's so important for everyone to have something like that that they can take steps towards multiple things, you know. Investing is obviously one for all of us. I think working out should be like a, or at least like work trying to improve your health through exercise one way or another is another like mandatory one that everyone should take up.
There's never been an episode we haven't somehow squeaked the gym into the conversation.
I know that,
You're
and
like,
you
the
know
gym
what?
should almost be right above investing, if I don't say so myself.
Yeah, I think one of these days what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to if we ever do like film something in person, we're just gonna have to do it at the gym, working out.
It's gonna happen, man. It's gonna happen. I'll be
Yeah.
out there in California, Vegas, all over again soonish. So hopefully we get a video and maybe the in-person deep end for everybody,
Yeah.
which would be amazing. But with that said, investors, I want to know what you thought about the last quarter there of our conversation on this episode's of the deep end, because we got pretty deep on a couple of things there in regards to consistency, motivation, and all of the alike. So drop some comments. What are your thoughts? Where do you stand with that? Am I a little bit too insane, too crazy? Um, I definitely would love to. I love reading comments when people are like, "Ari's nuts," you know. But let us know where you stand, what you think, and most importantly, can't say it enough. If you are looking to understand what the power of consistency actually really looks like when it comes to the portfolio, you can literally download Blossom, find Ryan's portfolio and my portfolio, and see how consistency literally takes you to the finish line every single time, hands down. I'll leave it at that. Ryan, I'll kick it back to you. Any last words here?
Yeah, only thing I have left to say is thank you guys all so much for tuning in if you're still here with us. Really great chat as always. Appreciate you guys taking the time to always tune in and leave your comments. Means a lot that you guys support this podcast. So thank you so much, and we'll see you in the next one.